Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Handicap. It's Thursday night, 9 o'clock. It's Rugby Chat That Matters. We're here to talk rugby. We're here to talk betting. And despite all the efforts of Eskom to derail the show tonight, we have been able to assemble a top-class panel, albeit we're missing a couple of our regulars. Well, I'm Brent Graham. But before you do anything else, go to the bottom of this video. And if you haven't subscribed to our YouTube channel yet, do it. We're going to have plenty of videos coming up, mainly focused on rugby. We've got Super Rugby. We, of course, got the World Cup coming later in the year. But we'll also have a few other things coming up on the channel as well. So make sure you subscribe, hit the bell. You'll get notified about all of our videos. Well, joining me on this show, and we're going to be talking all 6 Super Rugby games. We'll also be going through the 3 Six Nations clashes. I've got 2 guests, and I'm going to start off with one of the regulars on the show. It's Couch Critic down there in the Eastern Cape, and funny enough, my next guest also in the Eastern Cape. But welcome to you, Couch. Good to have you back on the show. No load shedding your part of the world.
How's it, Brent? No, we had load shedding at, I think it was 4 o'clock until 6, but luckily with the Wi-Fi and the laptop, I can still operate even if it does kick in. So, no, Eskom won't be able to derail me, eh?
Excellent. Well, that's good news. And another guy who I think also had load shedding at the same time, because he doesn't live that far away from you, is Chris Sturdy from Goodforthegame. Chris, good to have you on a rugby show. We've spoken soccer before, but never rugby.
Absolutely. I think this is my debut on the Handicap, Brent, so let's see if we can find a few winners, eh?
Excellent. And then just a shout out, welcome to all the guys on the live chat. I see Peter Paul, Nico de Toy, Yaka Okamp is also from your part of the world. He's there as well. I wonder if Seen Bo will be popping on. He was one of our winners last week. And just to mention, we will run a little competition in the live chat. I know you guys are spread over the country, but if there's anybody in Johannesburg, Sunbet have offered us 2 tickets to the Lions v Rebels rugby game on Saturday. You do need to be able to collect it in Sandton. But enter anyway, even if you are out of the province. If you've got mates in Joburg, you can always nominate them to win the ticket. So we'll run a little competition. If I get as far as the Six Nations boys, and I haven't run the competition yet, then please just give me a little bit of a prod. But guys, let's get straight into the action. Just to mention the boys who are not yet tonight, Oracle Rugby, he's moving house. As you know, he had a pretty good weekend. He was all over the Crusaders. The Blues let him and let a few of us down, though. He sent me through about 3 hours worth of voice notes, which he was hoping I'll play on the show. But I'm not going to be able to play all of those, Oracle. I don't think the quality will be good. And because of my frantic show before this, I haven't even had a chance to listen to them. So I'm not too sure what Oracle fancies. And Hendrik Swart, I'm not sure if he's got a chance to post on the Goodforthegame forum, but he'll also be popping in. Last time his power came back just before the end of the show, and if it does, he'll dial in and share his fancies as well. Sean Nicholas was another one who was going to join us, who's down with load shedding. So we've got what we've got, and let's move on to the rugby. And the first game, Chris, I'm going to start with you, is the Hurricanes up against the Chiefs, but the Chiefs actually at home against the Hurricanes. And I see on the Goodforthegame forum and on the Goodforthegame website that you've gone for the Chiefs here at about +8.5.
No. I've gone for the 1-7 ball game here, Brent.
Oh,
I did go for the Chiefs last week.
Yeah.
I went for the Chiefs last week, which was a mistake. Actually, I had a decent weekend in terms of the preview picks last week. But, one of them which I regretted, and almost by kickoff, and well, before kickoff, I knew that I was doing wrong when I had gone for the Chiefs on the handicap last week. But this week, look, I can see it being a close game. I mean, to me, Hurricanes have been involved in, I think, 3 of their 4 matches have been close, very close. They should have got beat by the Waratahs. You could argue they could have got beat by the Highlanders last week. Late scores have been bailing them out. Question is, can the Chiefs actually find some form? I mean, look, where do you find the bottom with these guys? It's a speculative play, Brent, but I went for 1-7 game either way. At the time, it was 16-10 with Sunbet, and I'll stand by that now.
Right. Okay. So you're expecting a nice tight game, which of course is not uncommon in New Zealand derbies. So let's bring Couch in there to see where his money's going. Couch, I haven't had a chance to read your preview yet, sponsored, of course, by Bet Olymp. Where are you going in the opener?
Oh, Brent, I just can't be in the Chiefs camp at the moment. It's just I don't see how they can turn things around so quickly. I still think the Hurricanes are the better team. They're not quite the Crusaders, but I still think the Chiefs won't really dominate them up front, and that's the only time the Hurricanes get into a bit of problems is when they have to play off the back foot. I know Damian McKenzie has now been moved to fullback, so I think it's actually the prices strengthened there. I think you get about 6.5 at the moment. So, I mean, at those new lines, I'm definitely in the Hurricanes camp. I think they've just got way too much firepower for the Chiefs, Obviously, D-Mac at fullback is better, but you still got Bowden Barrett. The Hurricanes are much better with him at fly off, and I think the back line is pretty settled, even though Ben Lamb isn't playing this weekend. I still think the Hurricanes have got way too much firepower for them.
Well, I see at Sunbet now the line's gone to 5.5. We had Justin from GG Gaming on the GG Gaming Gone Mad show. There they were 8.5, but I saw the money had come. It was 15 to 20. The Chiefs plus 8.5. So there's definitely been money for the Chiefs, which I think works towards Chris's bet of the 1 to 7 either side. But Couch, I must say, I'm with you. Yeah, I think the Hurricanes could be the business there. They don't have the strongest of packs, but I do think that at some point they're going to get on top of this Chiefs side, and they're potentially going to run them ragged. On the other hand, though, it is kind of weird to think of a New Zealand side other than the Blues losing five in a row. So, quite an interesting one, that. But so we're a little bit there. Yeah,
Brent, just on that one as well, I got a little bit too fancy last week on my preview bets. I actually did pretty well, and then on the handicap bets, I went for second half highest and things like that, and it went pear-shaped a bit there. But I'll have a second half handicap on this one as well. I still think the Chiefs will come out fired up at home, and they'll try and put in an improved performance. But then I think the Hurricanes will pull away. So I mean, there you can probably get 2 or 3 points second half handicap on the Hurricanes, and to me that's a great price. I see them, as you said, I see them pulling away. And then if you are interested, I know obviously the likes of Oracle won't be there, but B and South might look that way. Is Dane Cole's first try scorer? He's always a lively option. As I said, they don't have the best maul, so it's a bit more difficult with the Hurricanes. But then again, Dane Coles does pop up all over the place, so he gives you that extra option as well.
I was going to say I like it because they don't need a strong maul for Coles to score, because he spends most of his time on the wing anyway. So he's always. I mean, I haven't done a lot of spread betting lately, Couch, but when I used to be on my shirt number bets, it was nothing hurt me more than when the ball swung out to the wing and I was looking for a big number, and there's old Dan Coles sliding over in the corner. Absolutely used to hate it. Well, let's move on, though, to the Brumbies up against the Waratahs. Now, this is the game I think I'm going to run the competition for the Lions tickets, because I won something from tomorrow morning, and it's a nice close game. So, guys, if you're watching on the live chat, I'm looking for the winner of this game and the number of points they're going to win by. And the closest entry will get the 2 tickets. Even if you're somewhere else in the country and you've got mates in Joburg, enter the comp. Whoever's closest, you win. You can nominate your mates if they want to go. They've just got to be able to pick the tickets up at the Sunbet offices in Santon, so we can see that. So the game I'm looking at, it Brumbies against the Waratahs. Sunbet actually priced this as a basically a choice game, 9 to 10 the pair. And I'm looking to see who's going to win and by how many points. And you can put that in the live chat now. Emil actually coming in and saying Hurricanes by 8. I trust it's just a comment and not the competition, because they're playing in a different game. But let's stay with you then, Couch, on this one. A choice game according to the bookies?
Yeah, no, I think they've got the spot on, Brent. This is the one game that you don't even know on Super Brew. I'm really unsure who's going to take this one. You've got arguments for both teams. You know, the Waratahs are up and down, and they're a bit mentally all over the place. So I think they're softy mentally, but the Brumbies are a bit better, a bit more structured. But at the same time, the Waratahs to me have more game breakers, and Izzy Folau with one step and one moment, he could seal the game. So it's a bit of a tight one there, and in those kind of ones, I like to have a little speculative kind of play. So I'll go for Brumbies to lead at half time, and then Waratahs to finish stronger. So Brumbies, Waratahs half time, full time. I think you'll get about 6-1. That's a little play, and then this might also be one for Chris's type of bets. Or if one of them does win, it'll probably be by a small margin. I don't see this one blowing out either way.
Right, I see quite a few guys coming in here. Brumbies getting quite a bit of support. Jason Denman, who I met at the cricket the other day while watching South Africa, Sri Lanka there with Sunbet, he is going the Waratahs by 6. And Kevin Turner's calling the draw here, so he reckons the bookies really have got this spot on. Chris, I haven't read your preview for this game, so I've got absolutely no idea where you've gone. What have you done on this one?
I actually went for the Waratahs 1 to 12, Brent. I agree with the sentiments by the comments there, and also from what Hein was saying, what Couch was saying. I think it's going to be close. Early price, 22 to 10 with WSB for Waratahs to win 1 to 12, which I thought was good. I could have gone Brumbies 1 to 12, in all honesty. I decided 1 to 12 game. What swayed me in terms of the Waratahs was can't quite understand the Brumbies' second half collapse away at the Rebels last week. You know, they should have. They had that game in the bag really at half time. I think that that's going to hurt them. that will hurt them. Waratahs, I just feel that, yeah, I mean, look, they edged out the Sunwolves in Tokyo, and at the time, I think for that game they were 20-point favourites. But now that doesn't look as bad a result, does it? You know, given what the Sunwolves did in New Zealand, beating the Chiefs and losing fairly narrowly to the Blues, you know, that doesn't look as bad a result now, does it? And when you look at Waratahs New Zealand Australian derby record, I think they were 5 from 6 last year. So, you know, deciding it was a 1-12 game and then deciding which side to come down on, I thought the Waratahs was the one to go.
I must say, I'm with you there. I actually was a little bit surprised. I can't remember what I capped this game. It'll be on the Good for the Game forum, but I think I made the Waratahs probably maybe minus 2.5-point favourites here. So I actually like the Waratahs here at 9-10. Just looking down some of the other ones, I'm not sure if Peter Paul's is a is a typo. He's gone Brumbies by 92 points. I think that might be a bit ambitious there, Peter Paul. But having a look at some of the others, good to see Des Simons, one of the shrewder bookmakers I know, Brumbies by 2 points. Pierre Killian just talking on the points line, and Couch, I'll come to you here. He's saying if the line's about 50.5 points, and I think it will be in that region, probably 48.5 to 50.5, he's saying this is an unders play.
Oh, definitely. There's no doubt about it. This is, I think you summed up the strategy last week about doing something else and then having the game behind by about 5 minutes and watching it in fast forward. So I think that might be my strategy on this one, even though I probably won't watch it while it works. I'll come back and watch the rerun and fast forward through it, hopefully going low on points. Because, I mean, you can just see this one struggling. The Waratahs, they tend to play in these patches and, you know, they play really well and are dangerous for 10 minutes and then they fall asleep. And the Brumbies as well, you know, they more structured, kick to the corner. It's going to take them time, all over a try and things like that. So, no, definitely, I'm definitely won't be going high on points in this one. And if it's high enough, I'll go low, yes.
Right. Well, let's move on to Friday night because I've got some good news and I've got some bad news. The good news is the Super Rugby on Friday night for the first time this season. The Stormers against the Jaguares at Newlands. The bad news is I never realized that when I agreed to go to dinner with my wife and a friend of hers for her birthday tomorrow night. So I'm going to be missing the first Super Rugby Friday match. But it should be a cracking game. And we just popping onto the Sunbet site here. I see Stormers minus 8.5, Jaguares plus 8.5. And Chris, let's start with you on this one. Is this a game you're looking at the 1-12 margins, or you got some confidence in either of the sides on the handicap?
I can see they would be close, Brent, and I think the 1-12 would come into play for either side. Preference for me would probably be with the Jaguares on the plus handicap. Not with a whole deal of confidence, in all honesty, but you know, the thing with the Stormers, although you know they're strong at Newlands and you know deserve to start as favourites, 2 tries all season, you know, yeah, and you know stop-start season in terms of they've had a bye as well. Now I can't have them to run away with it, so that would sway me to the plus handicap, but not with a whole deal of confidence, to be honest. As far as I'm aware, I didn't see the game in Joburg last week, but Jaguares rested a few players and might be a bit stronger this week in terms of the lineup. I made an early call on this one, and I was anticipating that they would be. So I'm hoping that's the case. Yeah, and yeah, plus for me, but not one that I'd be, you know, rushing to beat you in front of the queue with.
Right. Well, Han, I see you shaking. Nodding your head there with regards to the sort of team news on the Jaguares. There was someone on the Good for the Game forum. I'd have to go and look who it was. He was quite bullish on the. I think it was Andrews. Was quite bullish on the Stormers minus 6.5. But from your nodding while Chris is talking, I'm picking up that you in the Jaguares camp this week.
No, Brent. I was just on team news. I'm
not very good at reading body language.
No, it was just Chris was right. They would be stronger and back towards a stronger team. Motera is back at 6, and 1 or 2 other changes that are positive for them. Delguy, I think Delguy on the wing, so that's good for them. And they changed one of the 2 props, and I mean that was key because they really suffered against the Lions. I didn't see that coming. You know, I saw a few changes, but I always thought that even a under 19 Argentine scrummage prop can scrum. So that was a huge surprise there. And so they've made some changes, but the big thing is Creevy is still not there. He's injured, he's injured. So that's a big loss for them. I think he really binds that team and pulls them together. Sometimes he's over emotional and too fired up, but I think that's the kind of thing that gets them going. So for me, he's a big loss. And then on the Stormers side, Kutsi had a really good game or a couple of games now, I think, but Troki is good. So I'm looking forward to seeing him at 8. And Kitshoff is back at loosehead. So again, the Jaguares could have a bit of a tough time at scrum time. Oh, and Skara is playing at hooker, which I think is a positive move. He's been pretty good coming off the bench. So I'm fancying a big performance from the Stormers this week, and I think they'll cover, especially 6.5, 7.5. That's where I'm around. I'm going to look for that price and go Stormers on the minus for me.
Yeah, I'm actually with you there. So it's the two of us against Chris this week. Initial thoughts were Jaguares perhaps on the plus. When I look at it now, Stormers are obviously very strong at home. And yes, the Jaguares might be bringing a few players back, but I really wasn't impressed with them last week. I thought they were absolutely blown away by the Lions, and that result certainly flattered them in the end. So we got two of us there, and we haven't yet had a game where we've all really unanimously rubber-stamped each other's decisions. We've got Hein and I there on the Stormers minus and Chris on the Jaguares plus. That takes us to Saturday morning, nice and early, 6:15. The Sunwolves have gone home after comfortably beating the Handicap against the Blues last week, losing by 8 points. They also beat the Chiefs 30-15 the week before. They now go home, and this is an interesting one because, Hein, I'll stay with you here. When I handicapped, I do a handicap projection show on YouTube on a Sunday, so look out for that one if you want to see what I think the caps are going to be. And I thought this one, the Reds would actually start favourites. In fact, I made them 6.5 point favourites, which I realised soon afterwards when I looked at GG Gaming's lines was probably an error. But I did not expect Hein, the Sunwolves, to start minus 3.5 point favourites.
Brent, firstly, you're going to miss the Friday game with the dinner, and obviously on Saturday morning you're going to be in the gym at 6. So I presume you're missing this one as well, eh?
I'll be on the treadmill. I'll be watching.
No, listen, I saw actually before I saw your prediction. I think I spoke to Gavin and I said it'll be interesting to see what they handicap this game, because I think often, there's just this kind of standard perception as a Sunwolf, and they're never going to be favourites in a game. So I was really looking forward to this prize coming up, and then I saw your prediction coming out, and I thought, gee whiz, I'm climbing in big time. Yeah, I couldn't wait for the Sunwolves game, and then I saw the prize come out at GG, and I thought, okay, hopefully they got it wrong, and someone else will come in there, and no one came, and it's just strengthened and strengthened. So I still haven't been able to get on the Sunwolves, and I was hoping to get them at even money, because I think they should be favourites for this one. The people aren't giving them the respect. The Reds are a nice, talented bunch of youngsters, but the Sunwolves are playing some good rugby, and at home, I fancy them to do the job there. It's tougher as soon as you start looking at a 5 point handicap or something like that. Then it's tough. But if I could have gotten them even money, I would have been all over the Sunwolves.
Seen both saying don't underestimate the Sunwolves, and just welcome to I think it's the first time certainly live viewer Garth Ridgway, Popgun, when he does post on the Good for the Game forum. Chris, you'll remember Garth well. He had the fantasy sports site that we used to run a bit with him, and Garth is saying Stormers on the minus. So Garth, good to have you on the show. And Chris, let's bring you in though on this one. Any different thoughts to Hein?
Yeah, first of all, hi to Garth there. Long time no speak, man, and all the best to you. I'm also with the Sunwolves. Again, I don't see him as banker material, Brent. I mean, they don't win an awful lot of games, but they have given the Reds a hiding in Tokyo before. The Reds, I see as a fairly solid side, but still very much work in progress. As Hein said, there's youngsters there, and they look good, but there's not an awful lot of potency there, I think. And the Sunwolves have been scoring tries, man. So yeah, I went for Sunwolves halftime, full time. I think, like yourselves, if I'd have got even money Sunwolves, if I'd have been around, if and when that was available, I would have gone for it. But yeah, I think they're going to win it. I think the Sunwolves will win.
Right. Well, I see Pierre Killian. He's going for the Reds at 14-10. And Pierre, I'm with you this week. I do think that the Reds can beat it. I'm going to back my original handicap and say that the Reds can win this one. I'll be more than happy to take the 14-10. But I will be treading carefully, though, because let's face it, the Sunwolves haven't been good to me this year, just as the Blues haven't been good to me over the last decade. So I will be treading rather carefully when I oppose them. But once again, we aren't all three united on a game. Let's see, guys, we're running out of time here. Highlanders up against the Crusaders. The Crusaders, well, they've shortened into 15 to 20 to win the title. They're looking in absolutely devastating form. The myth that the Crusaders are slow starters, well, that's just a myth the last few years. They generally start very quickly because they are just so dominant. They're 8.5-point favourites against the Highlanders. And Chris, not having read your preview, though, I would have a sneak that this is a game where you're looking at the 1 to 12 margins.
Indeed, yeah, and I went with the Crusaders 1 to 12. And to be honest, Brent, when I did that, it was earlier, it was before the team news. You know, what I like to do is get the previews out early on Good for the Game, get the banter going on the forum as well. It helps with that. But I like to hand over to you guys, the regular guests on the Handicap, who can, they've got a bit more information to work with and a bit more rugby knowledge than me to really sort of give punters a steer. But yeah, I thought I didn't want to oppose Crusaders, no two ways about it. But by the same token, Highlanders, they've got an appetite for close matches this season, hey? And that's what swayed me to the 1 to 12. Might not be the strongest justification for a punt. I think most of the All Blacks that are available are playing. I could be wrong in that. Yeah, I can see. I can see Highlanders keeping it close, but not turning Crusaders over.
Right, Couch, are you in agreement with Chris there?
Yeah, so I think it's a good candidate for 1 to 12 kind of games. The Highlanders, they don't let someone get away from them completely easily. You know, they're usually up for a fight. And just for Chris there, Sam Whitelock is back at lock, and Cody Taylor is starting his first game. So a few of the All Blacks are back. You guys will actually know that I'm pretty big on team news, but the Crusaders are the one team that I'm not really too worried about because they've got crazy depth. So you know that they're going to have quality on the park there, regardless of who they put out. And another one with Crotty and Goodhue in the centres. That's a dynamic partnership there, which is All Black material, of course. So no, it's tough. You can't go against the Crusaders. I've actually, for my write-up, I'll stick to the same prediction I have for my write-up with Better Limb, is to do the Crusaders to win by 8 to 14. It's obviously a bit speculative or quite a lot, but I just think the Crusaders will win just more than a score, but they won't win by a big margin. So 8 to 14 there, it's not giving me a lot of margin for error, but I think I'll be in running for most of the game on that punt, and I think it was at just over 3 to 1 or something.
Right, quite a few boys on the live chat are coming in for the Crusaders on the handicap there. Garth says Crusaders minus. Landers battled past the terrible Chiefs and just beat the Reds. But Des Simons, who he does reckon that the Highlanders can beat the spread. I must say, Chris, just quickly popped onto the Pick and Go site to have a look at some stats. That bet of yours, okay, you're obviously having to pick the team winner. So the Crusaders have won 3 of their last 5 in Dunedin. But the last 5 matches between the sides in Dunedin have been decided by 1 to 12-point margins. So plenty of stats to back up a close game.
Yeah, I think the last Super Rugby match that Crusaders lost was actually in Dunedin last season, maybe in round 5, something like that. But they did have injuries at the time. I mean, there wasn't these All Black protocols in terms of Rugby World Cup that we're having to contend with this season as punters in trying to determine who might play and who might be rested. But last season, I think Crusaders had injury problems and they did get rolled. But, nonetheless, that was their last defeat. It was in Dunedin. Yeah, I'm hopeful, but not confident, Brent.
Right. So this is a game where it sounds like all of us are getting involved, but perhaps not too heavily. I must say I was leaning towards Crusaders on the minus, but I do think we could well have the 1 to 12 margin, Chris. I'll be joining you on that bet. I think that's actually quite a nice one for this game. That takes us on to the final Super Rugby game. Are we going to unite on something? It's the Lions up against the Rebels. And Chris, I'll stay with you here. Lions minus 8.5 points at the moment is the line. Which way did you go?
Okay, right. All right. So it's down to me to nail it up first, then, Brent, and then we'll see if you guys pick this to pieces, Yeah,
if I'm not that doesn't mean anything, by the way. It doesn't mean he agrees with you.
Let me first start off with those that don't follow the stats. I can tell you the Rebels have an awful record in South Africa. I think they've drawn 1 with the Sharks. The Sharks were a little bit lucky to pinch that, if I remember right, in Durban a couple of seasons back.
Yes.
Other than that, the Rebels have been pretty awful in Joburg. And in fact, I remember, it was about 3 seasons ago, and I think the guy's playing for the Rebels against still Tom English. He actually thought he'd scored a try last time that they played in Joburg. He dived over and then like looked up and realised he was still 5 yards out from the try line, you know, and it was like ultimate humiliation, you know. And Lions have mullered them every time. Rebels have an awful record in South Africa, and yet where am I going? Rebels plus.
Rebels plus, you are too.
I just think I'm still not convinced by this Lions side, man. I mean, they did well against Jaguares because it was only late scores that brought that scoreboard margin back into something like handicap range, you know. But I think the Rebels, they arrive full of themselves. I don't think they've got any injury problems. Genia Cooper, you know, their first choice halfback pairing are there. Yeah, I can see, you know, even Rebels maybe leading at halftime, and maybe they might struggle at altitude. I'm not sure, but I've gone with the handicap, Brent. Rebels plus for me.
Right, Rebels plus for you. Well, I just want to share my screen there. Just to show the punters out there what you're talking about. This is now the Rebels away against South African teams. And if you look at the red, that's the team winner. You've got every single game they've lost, except for that game, the 9-all draw against the Sharks. And Emil kind enough to point out there that he remembers that game cost him a fortune on shirts. And he's spot on. In fact, I'm just thinking now, Emil, you know, I'd almost forgotten about that game. But now that you mention it, that game was actually the end of the year. I actually stopped spread betting for about 8 months after that game. Because what happened was I went high on shirt numbers. I was already down for the weekend. I went plowing in. At halftime, I don't know what the score was, 3-all or whatever it was. And it was sort of muggy, wet conditions. And I decided, stuff this, I'm going in. And I went in with double my stake at the new level, which was about 22. And I absolutely did. Oh, geez. Okay, thank you, Emil, for raising that. I don't want to talk about that one anymore. It was an absolute nightmare of a game. But that really illustrates your point, though, about the Rebels' poor record in South Africa, Chris. And let's go across to Couch. And I don't see us uniting on this one. I don't think he's going to be going with the Rebels plus.
Brent, just on that one, I remember that being like one of the worst games of rugby I've ever watched. That was absolutely a pathetic match. But no, it's the one thing I can tell Emil or anyone is you might consider some tries in this one, because it's definitely not going to end 9-9. This is going to be open. It's the same Lions youngsters. They're going to throw the ball around. Quade Cooper, he doesn't do conservative, so it should be a decent game. But I mean, the thing I just go back to last week is I listened to the press conference just an hour or so ago. They talked about Lemmer was talking about the rolling maul. They really did some work there defending the rolling maul. They think the Rebels have a decent maul, and they were very disappointed about what happened against the Jaguares. So they're going to sort that out. And then that scrum is absolutely dominant. Saudi and Marks and Dylan Smith are combining like an absolute trio. I don't know what happened there. They're dominating everything. So I just don't see how the Rebels are going to enjoy the last 20 minutes. Lans are clapping hands. It's going to be chaos. Their forwards are going to be tired. They don't want to be around in South Africa anymore, and they've only been here an hour. So it's no, I think it could go pear-shaped for them in the last 20, and I think the Lions will cover this handicap. I think they're going to run them riot there towards the end.
Well, just a reminder that you can win tickets to this game, guys. If you're late joining the show, you just got to predict tomorrow morning's game between the Brumbies and the Waratahs. Who's going to win on the live chat and by how many points? And the closest person will win 2 tickets, compliments of Sunbet. You can enter, win the competition. If you're not in Johannesburg or you can't make it, you can always nominate some friends to go, and we'll get a hold of you after the game. Pierre Killian saying he can see around 60 points being the line in this game. And I think you're right, Pierre, because it was 57.5 points for the Jaguares game on the weekend. And I think bookies are going to edge that line up. And when it's 60 points here, you need your sort of 8 tries, like he says, before you make money. So perhaps there will be some nervous times there. But that, gents, is really the end of the Super Rugby. I want to come back to both of you at the end of the show for your best bets on the Super Rugby. But we haven't really united on anything. So let's see if we can do it in the Six Nations, because we have, of course, the final week of Six Nations taking place. It's all up for grabs. We've got Wales now, the odds-on favourites to win the title. You've got England challenging them, and Ireland are ranked outsiders. It's difficult to see Ireland winning because they need England to slip up at home to Scotland as well. But let's start in a game which doesn't have that much meaning on the overall competition, and that's Italy up against France. Italy have lost all their matches, but France, well, they came back in the end a bit against Ireland last week, but at one stage 26-0 down. And Couch, I see the handicap here, Italy plus 9.5.
Yes, I think I got involved in 8.5, and I know this is a potential banana peel. Everything is pointing in the other direction. You know, France often get themselves up for the big game, and then they chuck it away against someone you expect them to beat quite comfortably. And also the talk in this week about Italy should not be involved in the Six Nations. That might really gel them and pee them off enough to really come out all guns blazing and run the French close. But I just think there's a little bit of a turn there. I think France did well to not fall away completely last week. The week before that, they were good. I think France have got it in them to cover this handicap, actually. I think in the second half, hopefully, again, they'll open up a bit and pull away. Italy have usually been good trying to keep it tight for a while, and then things loosen up a little bit. So I actually think France can cover this, especially the 8.5 that I got.
Right, so you're on the minus 8.5. I can tell you this is not the game we're all going to be agreed on before I even go across to Chris, because I actually I see Brendan Vessel's posting on the site that he reckons Italy straight on the board at 3-1. That sounds like an Oracle type of play. Italy on the board, and I'm with him there. I think Italy can win this game. I just think it's not, and I mean, this is going to, you know me, I love the French, but gee, was been let down one too many times by them. And I just look at this game and I go, yes, if the French rock up for this game, they'll win it. But Italy have shown me enough. They've actually beaten a lot of handicaps this season. The only game they were really put away, well, they were put away at Twickenham and in the first game against Scotland. But at home, they certainly haven't been put away by either Ireland or Wales. And Chris, I'm going for Italy on the board here, 3-1. And you're nodding your head, I hope, in agreement with me.
Not necessarily in agreement with you in terms of backing them, Brent. I mean, if you want me to back them, then yeah, I'm there, but only with your money. But you make a point about the home form. I mean, those two home handicaps against Wales and Ireland, they've stayed within those handicaps comfortably. And France, yeah, can you trust them? So yeah, to be honest, I think this is the first game of Saturday, yeah? All 3 Six Nations games are on Saturday, and this is the first one, and that's where I'll be watching the football.
Right. Where's Sunderland playing away to a non-league side or what?
Home to Walsall. Huge clash, home to Walsall. Yeah. So we're all very excited.
Sunderland over 1.5 goals.
Inevitably.
Inevitably, right. That's Chris, of course. He's a massive Sunderland supporter. For those of you who have caught him on the Good for the Game forum and of course in the soccer shows where we do them. Right, so we got Italy against France. They're not a game you're going to get too involved in. We got Hein on the French minus, and I think the Italians, I'll probably back them on the handicap, but I'm going to have a go at them outright as well. If I can certainly get 3-1, that's a tasty price that Pierre mentioned there. Let's move on to the big one though, because this game most likely, well, there's a strong chance, let's put it this way, this game will decide the Six Nations, and it's unbeaten Wales going for the Grand Slam. They are favourites minus 2.5 points against Ireland. We discussed this at length on the GG Gaming Gone Mad show, and Justin from gggaming.bet was just saying that Ireland just not the same team for him this year, and I don't think anyone would really argue with that. But Chris, the question is, do the Irish get up and win this one and ruin the Welsh party, or can Wales do it?
Yes and no. I would say that Justin's correct in what he's saying so far this year, but this year is all about building towards World Cup, eh? Do you really want to be peaking in March when it's all about what happens in Japan later in the year? And I wouldn't dismiss Ireland, even though they've been below par, they've been disappointing, but they're still in with a chance title, and they could beat Wales. But where we are right now, I think Wales, they used to grinding out results. I mean, even in the last sort of 2 years, November internationals, when they came up against tier 1 Southern Hemisphere sides, they were winning 1-12 and whatever. I'm not going to go 1-12, but I'm going to go Wales win. I just think they've got that winning mentality. It's Gatland's last Six Nations match in charge. Chance to win a Grand Slam, chance to win the title. I just think Wales are going to edge it, you know, and normally I'd be a 1-12 man, even a 1-7 man, but I just fancy Wales are gonna be in front, and then maybe Ireland are going to throw it about, you know, and I'm going with Wales on the ball.
Wales on the board, I think 17-20 at GG Gaming, you were saying, is the best there is available.
That was the best I could find, Brent. Yeah.
I'm going to come in with my pick here, and then we're going to see, because there's a chance that we could be united on this game. Because I like Wales on the board as well. As much as I love the Irish, I already see Hyde shaking his head, so this is not going to be the game. I enjoy the Irish. I love the Irish. I still think they're big runners for the World Cup. I think they're bankers for the final in the World Cup virtually. No, bankers is too strong a word, let's be honest. But I do think the Irish are massive runners there. I think Wales have got more to play for. They've got an excellent coach. Coach is going to have them fired up. They're not maybe that many flashy players across the park, but they're good hard grafters, as they showed against England, where they came from behind to beat them in Cardiff. And Chris, I'm with you here. I'm going Wales on the board. And with that, we're crossing down to George to hear what Couch Critic has to say.
Maybe it's more of a gut feel than anything else, but I just think Ireland can't go into the World Cup with 2 Six Nations defeats behind them. I think they haven't been playing as well as they would have wanted. I think last week for 40 minutes, they gave us a quick little a show of what they can do. They had Stander back. Stander is huge to the game. They need the go-forward ball that he gives. I think they're going to be a different beast. I do agree with what you guys said earlier, is that Murray hasn't been quite as good, and I think his box kicking hasn't been as good, but you never know. On the day, hopefully he nails it. I have huge respect for Wales. I think they've played fantastically well. But I mean, the coach thing is the same for Ireland. So don't be mistaken. Ireland are going to be up for this one. I think Ireland have really nailed this one down as the one to put in their best performance. So maybe they'll lose, but I think you can bet your bottom dollar they're going to put in their best performance of the Six Nations thus far. And I just have a sneaky feeling that it's going to be good enough to win them the game and keep the Six Nations open until the next game to follow. Because I just think Ireland have it across the board. And also another sentimental one, if you guys want to keep on throwing a few of those in there, is Rory Best is also playing his last Six Nations game. So don't worry about it. They've got it on both sides of the fence, and I'm backing the Irish. I think they'll be well up for this one, and they got no shortage of being able to upset the party. They won't be playing tiddlywinks there and saying, no, you guys take it for Gatlin or take it for the Six Nations. They want this one, and I think they're going to win it.
Right. Well, interesting. So we once again split on this one. Just Han Heiger coming in there, Italy for the win. So there's quite a bit of support coming for Italy there. But Wales and Ireland, guys, maybe on the live chat, if you want to give us an indication. I see Brendan Vessel saying Wales to win there. But yeah, it's going to be very tight. And as you say, look, I suppose from the tournament point of view, if Ireland do win that, it does come down to the last game. Although I think it really is then England's for the taking. Because if we have a look at that, we've got England sitting their couch at massive favourites, 17.5-point favourites over the Scots. And I guess the England mindset's going to be interesting going into this one. Because, of course, if Wales have won, and the Six Nations is no longer up for grabs, I think we're going to get an open, high-scoring game, as you saw us do in the last game of Six Nations. But if England have to win the game, then I would make them virtual certs on the handicap.
No, definitely, that's a big one. I wouldn't really bet on this one before at least an hour into the previous game. You know, you have to see what's going to happen there. But you know, it's difficult seeing what Scotland are going to try and get out of this game. They've had a disappointing Six Nations. They're going to Twickenham. They're hitting an English team that's really, for me, they didn't get the job done at Millennium, but otherwise they've played some really good rugby, and I actually think they're one of the teams on the up. And I know you're very firm on Ireland, but I actually think the English are a decent shot for the World Cup, and to me they're a better shot than Ireland, depending on who they meet. I haven't even checked that yet. I presume you have, but
England will more than likely play the All Blacks in the semi-finals.
Oh, then they buggered.
With Ireland, I'm assuming Ireland beat South Africa. Ireland will more than likely play Wales or possibly Australia in the semis. But I'm with you there. I think England are massive runners for the World Cup.
Yeah, I just think, and I think Eddie's finally got the team that he wants. He's finally got the balance, and he's finally got them playing the game, whether you think it's right or wrong, the way he wants them to play it. I know a lot of talk was there about John Mitchell, but hopefully the World Cup is coming quickly enough until before he really upsets everyone. So no, I think the English are in a sweet spot at the moment, and it's almost regardless of what happens in the previous game. You think England will comfortably win this game because, as I said, either way there's nothing for Scotland, and even if England don't have to win the game, you think they're going to want to finish with a flurry, and then they might actually be more dangerous on the handicap, for instance, because they could really, run away with it at the end and not play conservative football.
Right, Chris, let's bring you in there. I'm like Hein, I'm suggesting probably not getting too involved in this game initially. I do think we could get points if conditions are decent at Twickenham. What have you gone for in your preview on Good for the Game?
Yeah, I slightly disagree with the logic that England might not be ruthless, or it depends on the outcome of the previous match. I think England are going to go for this big time, and I've gone with England minus, Brent. There was some -16 around earlier in the week. Might have even been a point or two shorter than that, because these Six Nations prices tend to come out very, very early. But I saw -16. I think it was Sporting Bet earlier in the week, and I had no hesitation in putting England up there. And I don't necessarily see that it totally rests or is influenced by what happens in Cardiff in the match before. I think England are back to their best in terms of what they were 2 years ago. I mean, they've scored 4 tries in Dublin. Sure, they got hammered by, they got edged out by Wales, which is part of my thinking of going for Wales against Ireland in that previous game. But other than that, England have been scoring tries for fun. Yeah. And Scotland, there's injury problems there in some respects. I mean, Stuart Hogg, I'm a big fan of, and he hasn't been able to take part, really, play a full part in the Six Nations, which is a shame because he's a fantastic player. I know that they'll always try and pull out their best against the English, but we normally see that north of the border rather than south of the border at Twickenham. 2 years ago when they were here, Scotland were being talked up. I think the handicap was in low teens, and I could be wrong in that, but I think I might be generous there. And England put 55 points on them. I'm not suggesting that's going to happen this time, but I think if conditions are fair, and I haven't seen the weather forecast, England will win by 20 or more.
Excellent. So very confident, bullish call on the English. I must say I am leaning towards England there as well on the handicap, although yeah, I might be looking for a total points play on that game. Guys, that brings us to the end of a great show. I am going to ask you to run through your best bets. I do have some WhatsApps from Henrik and Sean as well, so I'll be sharing their bets. So punters, stay tuned for that. I'll share their bets. But Chris, let's go with you first, and I think let's take it across the board. Six Nations and Super Rugby. What's the bet for the weekend?
Well, okay, yeah, Six Nations. I would go England. What was the current level, Brent? Was it gonna? Yeah, I'd go with England, and closely followed by that, I'd go with Wales outright. Yeah.
Sounds like
Super Rugby.
Sorry,
Super
Chris,
Rugby.
sounds like someone's been killed in the back there. Is that your bird?
Yeah. That's either Charlie or Lola. I'm not sure which one I'm going to throw out the window after this show. And then in terms of the Super Rugby, maybe we go with the Sunwolves.
The Sunwolves, that's -3.5. Right, Couch, let's go over to you. Best bet?
Yes, there's not a best bet for me on a handicap one, a few that I like, but I'll go for two doubles there. I'll take England on as low a handicap as you can get to for about 4 to 10. So I don't know, maybe 12 or 12.5 handicap there on the minus, thrown into a Hurricanes 2.5 or something like that. Some low that gives you 4 to 10. So together it's going to give you about evens, and then the same combination you can just throw it around with the Stormers on a very low handicap as well. So those three results, England win, Stormers and Hurricanes, those are the ones that I'm most confident in.
Right, well, Sean Nicholas was going to be on the show tonight. Unfortunately, couldn't make it because of load shedding, but he's messaged me to say Stormers -7.5 his bet. So that's Rugger Bugger on the Good for the Game forum going Stormers. Henrik coming in and saying he likes the Jags as actually one of his best bets. So even those guys not agreeing tonight. And then just scanning down a little bit, let's see what Henrik comes up with. He reckons Rebels his best bet, Henrik. This is very interesting because the sentiment's been going for the Lions. Rebels plus an absolute certainty. Rebels will win the game. amazed the sentiment and line movement for the Lions. And Couch, I see you laughing there, but gee, when Hendrik speaks with that sort of confidence, no matter what your bet is on the game, you find yourself giving it a rethink, don't you?
No, definitely. I'm glad I didn't say that was my best bet of the. I told you before the show, I hope I don't pin a best bet with one of these guys who's going to come up against it. But I think the big thing there is, Hendrik and a few other people have made it clear that they're not a fan of the Lions at this stage, the rugby that they play, and they're not the same team that they were. And I take that. And I do think the Rebels are an improved team. But again, I just can't have an Australian team beating a South African team who plays running rugby at a 3 o'clock game in South Africa.
Right. Okay. So interesting that Hendrik's confident on that one. Just to run through my bets then, in the Six Nations, I am torn. I do like England on the minus, but I'm going to go for Wales if the 17-20 is still available at GG Gaming. I think that's a cracking bet. And Super Rugby, I'll probably be looking for total points in the Lions v Rebels game, but nothing I'm terribly strong on there. I don't know if you guys can see my screen, but I got a whole lot of voice notes from, not too clear, it's upside down there, is it? But anyway, I got a whole lot of voice notes from Gavin Cohen. It would have taken us another hour to play all of them. Gavin, I'm going to play his last one just to see if he sends a summary. Tell me, guys, if you can hear. Let's hear. No,
plus, if you want to take the 9-10, but for me, best bet of the weekend, Reds to beat the Sunwolves. I think it's well overpriced. Reds, the Sunwolves hadn't got those dodgy results that they have got. They probably would have been around about plus 10.5 or plus 12.5. I'm all over the Reds here. Next for me, definitely Lions minus, Jaguares plus, Crusaders minus, Hurricanes minus. Choosing a lot of minuses here. Wales to win the game on the board, and the Italian plus, not so strong on that one. Scotland plus is a bit big, not too strong on that either. Waratahs to beat the Brumbies. Yeah, just a mixed bag of small bets really, and the main bet for me is definitely going to be the Reds to beat the Sunwolves.
Right, well, that was could you guys hear that fairly clearly? He likes the Reds to beat the Sunwolves.
I could hear that, yeah.
Good luck to anyone watching this show, because we've actually told them absolutely bugger all now.
We are very, very split. But as Hendrik always says, it's actually very important. It's good that the guys have got different opinion. And I've seen a lot of comment this week that it's going to be a tough week in Super Brew. It's going to be a tough week in betting. And I think our show actually shows that is going to be the case, because punters are split. But, of course, that means if we split down the middle, 50% of us are going to make a profit. I know
the problem is those best bets. It's nice when we align on a best bet or something, but when the best bets are competing against each other, then someone's granny is not going to have a pension fund.
That's it. Well, it sounds like Gavin is all over the Reds there. And it's interesting. I think he liked the Lions as his second best. And, of course, Hendrik likes the Rebels there. But, guys, thanks very much for coming in. Chris, I really appreciate you coming in at such short notice to join us on the show as well. With load shedding kicking us all out. And just to mention, Chris, I think you're probably going to be hosting the Handicap next week, because I'm going to be somewhere in the Drakensberg, no doubt without any signal.
Load shedding permitted, Brent. We've got to try and keep the show on the road. So yeah, I mean, if Couch and the regular guys, Henrik and Gavin are available, then definitely I will do absolutely utmost to host the show, and we keep the show on the road.
Excellent. And Couch, good chatting to you. As I say, I may not chat to you next week, but certainly be back thereafter. But good punting to you this weekend. Cool.
Cheers. Thanks, Brent. And enjoy the break.
Excellent. And thanks to all the guys. We had some great participation on the live chat. Good to see some new names in there as well as all our regulars. Guys, have a great weekend. If you haven't done it yet, I'm sure all of you on the live chat are already subscribed to the channel. But if you're watching the recording, you've seen the show for the first time, then go below the video, hit subscribe, hit the bell. You'll get notified of all of our videos. Otherwise, we'll see you in the Good for the Game forum. Just log on to goodforthegame.co.za, click on GFTG forum, and register there, and you can have your say in the forum all weekend as well. Thanks, everyone, and have a great punting weekend.